So this all-in-one compact camera just seems too good to be true. Like, what do you mean we can get film-like photos with zero editing? What do you mean we can shoot 4K up to 120 frames per second in 10-bit log? And what? Say it again? OpenGate? And on top of that, this camera actually looks beautiful. This is the Panasonic Lumix L10, and when this camera first got announced, it broke the internet.
I think it's a perfect street camera.
508 grams.
This is really cool.
An aesthetic photo camera with top-of-the-line video specs.
The camera that I've been asking for.
It completely mocked both the Canon R6V
Canon R6V
and the Sony A7R VI
The A7R6.
that launched around the same time.
Yeah.
And the most hilarious thing about it, those two are full-frame cameras. But this uses the smaller Micro Four Thirds sensor, which sits somewhere right in between a pocket point-and-shoot 1-inch sensor ZV-1 and an APS-C sensor Fujifilm X100 VI. But despite it using one of the smallest sensors, the photos that are coming out of the L10 feels otherwise. Just look at some of these photos here, straight out of camera, no editing, using some of the built-in film looks. And y'all know I'm a sucker for those warm colors, so naturally I'm going to gravitate towards L Classic Gold. But as much as I'm a warm color guy, I can't help but fall in love with Leica monochrome. And look, Leica lens. I'm a Leica photographer now. While it's not a one-to-one same as actual Leica monochrome camera, something about the contrast and the oomph of sharpness that can really transform any ordinary scenes into just pure vibes. Especially when the harsh light is so unforgiving on a hot Tokyo summer bright noon. And I learned this phrase from my friend Jaron Schneider from Petapixel.
When the light is shite, shoot black and white.
Love it. By the way, this is his camera. I stole it from him. Despite us traveling around Japan right now, I was not invited to the Panasonic event.
Wait. Where's my L10?
So you know how Fujifilm has film simulations and users can build recipes with it to create a whole new look? Well, Lumix has the same thing through the form of LUTs, which is mainly a video terminology, and we'll get into videos in just a sec. But through LUTs, you, the users, can develop your own film looks and even share it with others. Now, that's a little too complicated for me, so I actually downloaded some pre-made ones from the Lumix Lab app. And this particular one, Everything Golden, just looks so damn good at the Sanja Matsuri Festival in Tokyo. The LUT is made by Vong guy, not to be confused with the Vong guy here, but just, oh man, look at the vibrancy of the colors with the warm tones, just chef's kiss, beautiful golden radiance. But the video aspect and the overall user experience does fall a bit short for me. More on that later, after a short break. As a traveling creator, I always have too much tech on me, so undoubtedly during a long day, something's bound to run dangerously low on power. That's why I carry these two things. First off, this wall charger, size of an AirPods Pro 3 case, but outputs up to 160 watts through 3 of these USB-C ports. That means I can charge my MacBook Pro up to 140 watts, and the rest of the 20 watts I can charge my camera and my phone. Now, you might be asking, Jason, does a higher wattage charger always charge my device faster? Well, the answer is no. But Anker's Power IQ 5.0 technology helps identify each device and intelligently distribute power every 2 minutes appropriately to provide a fast and stable charge. So that means it can charge a 16-inch MacBook Pro, iPhone 17 Pro Max, and 11-inch iPad Pro from 20% to 80% in the same amount of time as using 3 separate original chargers. But when you don't have access to a wall outlet, that's when you might need this 300-watt multi-port fast-charging power bank, which is also flight-approved, by the way. Man, it's wild how this thing can charge 2 MacBook Pros close to 280 watts at the same time. But when it's time to recharge Anker Prime Power Bank itself, you can use both USB-C ports to dual charge it with 2 140-watt chargers, and in 13 minutes, we'll get roughly 50% of our power back. For more charging questions, check out Anker's latest Ask Me Anker Thing video, and for my favorite Anker charger and power bank, check out the links in the description box below. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. Now back to the video. Now, despite it being a photo camera first, the Vlog, the 10-bit 422, and the LUTs really make the L10 a viable video option. And I don't really care it doesn't have a headphone jack because I don't view it as a production camera. But for short bursts of some cinematic frames while we're traveling, it more than does the job. And yes, the camera does heat up quickly. I've gotten the heating symbol a dozen times over while capturing the parade. But I wouldn't call it a flaw, it's just limitations of a smaller, fanless body. And while this camera can shoot in open gate, the max res is 5.2K up to 30 frames per second. For higher frame rates like 60 frames per second, we would need to go down to 4.4K with a hefty crop.
Ooh, selfie open gate.
But the sheer fact that this camera can do it would make any video fanboys and girls happy, especially those who have to deliver both vertical and horizontal content. Oh, and autofocus? It's okay, it's accurate, it does the job, but don't be expecting Canon and Sony level of speed. But none of those issues is why I'm docking off a few points. Where Canon and Sony are king of autofocus, Panasonic has always been the king of in-body image stabilization, which unfortunately this L10 does not have. The Leica lens itself has optical image stabilization, which, while useful for photography, it's not enough for video. I find that a lot of my clips are still a bit shaky, even just hand-holding it. Not unbearable to watch, and if it's 60 or 120 frames per second, the slow motion effect usually smoothens things out. But when you realize this is literally the same size as their full-frame S9, which shares their best-in-class in-body image stabilization with the other great Lumix cameras, I feel like Panasonic doesn't really have an excuse. We could turn on digital stabilization, but I personally do not like digital stabilization because it has to crop in to compensate for the shakes. Bottom line, it's usable, but just be extra steady yourself. And the lens zoom. While tolerable in photo mode, in video mode, when it's recording, it just gives off slow zoom camcorder vibes. And I'll leave it to you to view it either positively or negatively. But for me personally, because it's so slow, I often find myself missing the moments in either modes. But I do like the fact that I can program this top ticker here to stop at focal lengths of my choice, and I have it set to 28, 50, and 75, so if I have it on 2, every time I turn on the camera, it automatically zooms to 50mm, which is very nice. But you gotta give it a second to get there. And as much as I praise the aesthetics of this camera, the one design choice I dislike the most is the auto lens cap. And Maiko, buddy, I'm sorry if I'm offending you right now, but this just looks so weird to me. Like a worm poking its head out of its skin. Luckily, we can go back to the regular design, which I've tried. But ultimately, as much as I dislike the look of it, there's no denying how convenient it is that it protects your lens when it retracts. Price $1,600 for the exclusive gold model and $100 less for either the black or silver model. Unfortunately, the titanium gold color is a Panasonic store exclusive only, which I imagine is going to be very hard to get. At least right at the start of launch. Which really sucks because it's the only color that I personally think looks amazing against the boring standard black and silver models. So if you weren't one of the first ones in line like me, you probably won't be able to get the gold color one for a while. The small rig thumb grip and the pinky extension plate I believe are sold separately, but these are officially partnered and made with Panasonic, so it does blend in seamlessly and it makes it feel really good to hold. So regardless of whichever color you end up choosing, I highly recommend picking up these accessories. As an all-in-one, one-and-done camera, this is fantastic. It looks good, it feels good, and the results are more than good. However, I do wish it was a wee bit smaller, given the fact that it is using a micro four thirds sensor. The fact that it is the same size as the full-frame S9 means I already have something in my arsenal that's already comparable, and that's already making me very happy. So for now, I'll hang on to my non-existent $1,600 liver and see what else will come out this year. Peace.